Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. I am super stoked. We've had such a good conversation. I kind of feel bad that it wasn't on the recording, but that's what happens. You snooze, you lose, you weren't here. So now you get the best of the best and the pre-game stuff. I am super excited to introduce, and we're going to celebrate tonight, Joey Nicoletti. And I am not going to spend a lot of time. And did I pronounce your last name correctly? I should have asked before I said it.
It's Nicoletti. Nicoletti.
Nicoletti.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And so I am not going to spend, you had your screenshot up for your book, and now I don't see it. So I was hoping you could put it up just again so you could show the cover art if you could. There we go. Breakaway. And I am going to turn it right over. And just a reminder that if you would like to read for Open Mic, please send me a message. And if you have questions for Joey, you can put them in the chat section. We will have Q&A. But right now I'm going to turn it over so that we can celebrate with Joey. Breakaway. Thank you, Joey, so much for agreeing to be here. I know that you're back teaching school again. I know things have gotten busy, but you've taken time and you're going to celebrate here. So thanks.
Wow. No, thank you for having me, Mike. This is so cool. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to see some old friends, and it's great to have the opportunity to make some new ones. So I so appreciate everybody being here because, I mean, when you have a night of anything and you can throw poetry into the equation, I don't know, in my experience, that's just goodness. You can't miss with that, right? So thank you so much. And I am so grateful that this book is in the world because, the pandemic, there's so much we can say, I think all of us about it. But I know for me, as much as I love poetry, as much as I love everything about it, it has sustained me. It has enabled me to make it through in so many ways. And now, right, I've heard people say that the pandemic is over. I don't know, right? We've been hearing things about things coming back in different ways. So I'm just grateful that I was able to have an opportunity to do something more than just obsess about the world. And this book, well, is kind of a product of that. And it was inspired by the Space 1999 show, the episode Breakaway. It just hit me, and here's this book. So without further ado, let me begin. The first poem I'd like to read for you tonight is the first poem in the book. It's called Cravings. San Francisco, how sweet you talk at night, whispering your misty history into the open, majestic mouth of my hotel room window. I look towards the bathroom. I imagine my love stepping out of the shower in another room, a bigger one, 2 floors up, 10 years earlier, before the Buffalo snow, smoke, and ice joined our family, back when my ambition was a row house, a lavender painted lady, 2.5 miles from here, and endless concerts of clanging, all of the trolley rides I could ever want. But tonight, I crave a round of sleep, pounding the roof as my love steps into a hot bath, the Boston Terrier and Schnauzer chasing the short-haired cat down the hall, streets glittered with salt. So the other thing about this book that I think I should mention before I read the next poem is that I don't know, being in the pandemic, going through it made me think about things that I hadn't thought about for a long time. And I think it's because I couldn't be teaching like I normally do because I was online doing it. So I was looking for ways to connect. And as I was doing that, I was just getting ideas for, just what I could write about. And this next poem is a product of that. This is called Back Issues. You break the neighbor's window, I break you, my father said, before he threw me against the dresser in his and my mother's bedroom, then punched me in the stomach. I saw stars shoot above the red shag carpet. The next thing I knew, I was in my room and my father watched TV. His loud slurps of beer foamed in my ear. His cackles were swords, cutting my gut. I tried to take my mind off my pain by reading a comic book, a back issue of Iron Man. On the last page, a woman asked Iron Man if Commander Kraken, the issue's guest villain, had drowned in a cave. Iron Man ruminated on helping Kraken if he could have, but he didn't find an answer. I was confused. Weren't superheroes supposed to know right from wrong? Weren't parents? Why wasn't this so? I didn't know yet that my father was both physically and mentally abused by his father. I didn't know yet that his father's infidelity and drinking made him hard, scarred, distrustful, and angry at the world. Now that my hair is almost as gray as my father's, I understand that I don't have to bury my anguish like a treasure chest or a body, as he did. Something always has to happen in a comic book, but it ends, for the most part, until I hear my father laugh. His cackles as sharp as the steel of a powerful pirate's blade, stabbing me for hours on end. I would be remiss if I, thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't read this next poem. I'm here. I'm able to have the life I have because I have a lot of support. I have a lot of people lifting me up, some of whom are here tonight. Thanks again. And this poem is for someone who showed me what it means to be a strong person in this world. This is for my nana, for my grandmother. This is called Ida's Blessing. Fennel. Always use it when you make sauce. You no forget this. Capish? It important, like you girl. She Irish. She strong. She have eyes green like leafy tree. She laugh tall as de Chrysler building. That's good. You have taste. You like? She's smart. You work better overtime to keep up. She to you what fennel is to sauce, to Sunday and any dinner. You no forget this. Capish? So that poem's also for my spouse. Thanks. Yeah, well, my spouse is beautiful. So here we go. Here's a poem that is called The Sweetness of Buttercream. Wellwood Avenue is a smaller muscle than it used to be. My mind is an ocean, and memories flare of the time I kissed someone and that same person kissed me back on the mouth. Foams on a shoreline made of botched tombstones, some of which are veiled in seaweed, the broken promises of driftwood chafing against cracked concrete. The thoughts of returning here for my cousin's wedding, where I will see some members of my nuclear family who took my instinct, my decision to leave this place like a left hook to the neck. And those who believe that the Speaker of the House should, as my father told me on the phone in our last conversation, quote, retire to the kitchen and make meatballs. Instead of helping all people have affordable health care, have my thoughts almost moving faster than my tongue can articulate them, which was a fact of life back in my rotten salad days. Joe Fish, my father asked me the night before I moved, must you always trust your gut? But today is not about me or him, and neither of us is the ultimate authority on anything. I look forward to raising my glass of champagne at the reception with each guest when the bride and groom are announced, and to eating a slice of red velvet cake, chewing with my mouth clamped when my father starts to talk and talk and talk. The sweetness of buttercream, pink flowers dissolving on my trained, satisfied tongue. Let's see, here we go. So the next poem, thanks, you guys rock, thank you. The next poem, it takes its title from a Marvel comic series of the same name. Both are called A Marvel 2-in-1. Goes something like this. I'm not a superhero, but can I be in charge? The master of my own narrative? When I was a child, there was a day when my mother was an enormous bruise, swelling on a thigh of mid-July sky. She told me she was leaving my father. We were in a bookstore. I won't suffer fools in any form, she said to me. Swear to God that you won't too, Joe Fish. I agreed. My mother nodded her head, then handed me a comic, Marvel 2-in-1. The Thing, Ben Grimm and Doc Savage punched through a wall on a smooth cover. I remember wanting to feel as powerful, as resolved as they were, as my mother was that afternoon. Alas, I could not control the dynamics around me. I still can't. But looking back, I can track my first sense of concern, of worrying about someone else's well-being to this book. And I hear the orange rocks of my mother's voice when I read Ben's dialogue, the midday sun's yellow stammer spitting into parking lot potholes. Okay. Here's a poem that's called Teaching Tools. My brother, am I allowed to work less on reactions, which are taxing for me to manage in the moment? For instance, did I hear you correctly when you said Buddha is a four-letter word? Did I understand you when you said Ahmaud Arbery wasn't murdered? Do I have to be on the same time frame everyone else is on? Am I allowed to go for a walk, stop and enjoy all that any moment has to offer me, such as a shot of Bailey's and a fresh cup of hot chocolate? The look of concentration in a muscular acrobat's eyes as he throws a chair and a petite woman in the crisp December air, one after the other? Am I allowed to rejoice in the radiant smile on the woman's face when she lands in the chair, his ripped arms as still as the lake behind the stage? Am I allowed to listen to my mouth when it suggests Zeppelis, especially if the powdered sugar melting on my delighted tongue helps me to understand that it's better for me to feed my curiosity instead of my frustration? So as I was writing this book, I was just surprised by what came out of it because again, I was thinking about just I was thinking about the people I work with, the things I was hearing from students about the lives they had to go and leave behind and go back to. Some students had to become the breadwinners in their family, and they were getting jobs and they were doing all kinds of stuff. So this next poem was kind of inspired by that. And it is football season. There's some football in this poem. So what the hell? Here we go. This is called This Week's Italian Lesson. This week's Italian lesson was taught to me by my friend Sam. Mi tocco le paglie, he says. This is an Italian translation of touch my balls, a phrase that means knock on wood, as Sam explains during a conversation about a job I've applied for. You'll nail it, he says. I feel it. I do. Just as I feel that next year, my Buffalo Bills will be great. Mi tocca le paglie. Get ready, man. They will punch every team in their idiot mouths because they made the playoffs for the third time in 4 years, which they haven't done since the last century. Also, today we're having lunch at a place that makes a mean bowl of Fra Diavolo, and the sun will stretch its linebacker large legs out by the time we're done, Sam says. I tell you, Paisano, keep learning, keep teaching your heart out. Don't stop rooting for your Seattle Seahawks, even when they get punched in their idiot mouths by my Bills. Mi tocco le paglie. Ah, Sam, what a guy. So here's a poem that was a found poem. Thank you. Here's a poem that was a found poem. I was watching cable, like, like you do. And I saw this, you know how sometimes like you can hit the information button, right? And it gives you the synopsis. This poem is from that. It's called Poem Where Santa Claus Goes to Mars. How could I not want to write something with that kind of a title? So here it is. Kamar, the Tsar of Mars, is upset with all of his planet's children, whom he thinks are under the influence of too much Earth pop culture. The children are obsessed with the planet's TV shows and don't want to do much of anything. So in an attempt to get the kids peppy again, Kamar orders the kidnapping of Santa Claus, hoping that the jolly old toy maker will know how to cheer the children up. But 2 Earth kids are abducted, which makes matters worse, like a Christmas Eve feast in my childhood home, without mussels, clams, calamari, scallops, or shrimp. So here's a poem that was inspired by where I work, Buffalo State. Like we talked about before, go Bengals. Yeah. Here's a poem. It's called Acceptance. Moment to moment, the sky changes its appearance and mood. Take this morning in Buffalo, for instance. Every smile and smirk of sunlight I see as I drive to my brick and mortar campus, my workplace, is wiped away by gunmetal gray clouds, an endless supply of colossal lake effect handkerchiefs. Then I get out of my car. The lock's quick lick hits me. There's only so much I can control, such as eating a Honeycrisp apple, a ginger muffin, or both for my first meal of the day, listening to a Tribe Called Quest song, Jazz, We've Got, as I enjoy every small, tasty bite of my apple and muffin during my office hours. It's possible that no students will drop by this morning, just as it's possible for me to learn how not to take anything my father says or does personally anymore. His antics, his choices, behavior, or lack thereof are just that, his. Sometimes it takes a while for me to understand a particular thought, feeling, or both, to separate them like continents from the Pangea of my memories of him, of us when I was a child and a teenager, none of which have to be a part of the men we are still becoming. Therapy helps, as does lots of acceptance that it's easier for me to go to the moon than it is for me to repair the past, even if I'm not an astronaut. Listening to music also goes a long way towards maintaining my sanity, even further than any spacecraft operated by human beings currently can. But for now, Q-Tip's lyrics, just like Ringling Brothers, I'll daze and astound, captivate the mass because the prose was profound, have pulled up a chair in my ear, and I feel clear, even if the sky isn't. My belly is almost as full as the black and orange truck outside, beeping its crimson beep joyously, as a man in a tan puffy coat fills the long, wide bed with goldenrod, carnelian, and lurid leaves. Trumpet notes tiptoe out of my charged phone. My window still bites its ivory metallic lip and refuses to give. Thanks. Two more for you. So this is a prose poem, and it's inspired by a Genesis album. They're both called Abacab. Then there was Genesis. I was introduced to their music by my mother, who worked in the records section of a department store called Corvettes. She brought this album home from work one day and gave it to me because she thought I'd like Tony Banks' keyboards in the song Abacab, which she described as, quote, a throbbing conversation starter in the middle of the LP version of the song. I was amazed. She called it like Babe Ruth's famous shot in the 1932 World Series. I also found myself liking Phil Collins' drumming, especially with how well it complemented Tony's keys. When I play the album today, I can still feel my mother's smile growing on my neck like an August sunrise. All right, so here we go. Last poem for you. Once again, thank you so much for being here tonight. You could be doing so much and you're here. Much obliged to you all. So this poem it proceeds from an epigraph by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. The line is, I am waiting for a rebirth of wonder. The poem's called My Rebirth. My Rebirth. I am waiting for a rebirth of wonder. Lawrence Ferlinghetti. This morning, I am thrilled as a spy with a new alias, as a UPS driver cutting off a city bus. This morning, I am thrilled as an astronaut doing cartwheels on Mars, as an archaeologist with a LiDAR scanner. This morning, I am thrilled as Congressman Jamie Raskin discussing the Constitution with anyone. This morning, I am thrilled as Tony Stark firing repulsors at Ironmonger and Loki, then savoring a Burger King cheeseburger or shawarma, as some of you might have seen in Iron Man and at the end of Marvel's The Avengers. This afternoon, I am as thrilled as Billy Pilgrim having sex with Montana Wildhack, or as Captain James T. Kirk having sex with anyone or anything, as Julia Child saying bon appetit, especially during Thanksgiving, as Gloria Anzaldúa refusing to tame her wild tongue, as Lucille Clifton spinning a man like a top, as Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who shows me the eternal graffiti written in my first generation Italian-American heart, and as Frank O'Hara watching Looney Tunes or Kabuki. This afternoon, I am as thrilled as my mother reading The Shining, as my father anytime he watches West Side Story, as Eddie Van Halen shredding on stage, as Jam Master Jay beat matching as some of you might have checked out in concert back in the day, or others in videos on YouTube. This afternoon, I am thrilled as Shohei Ohtani, driving in 8 runners and striking out 13 batters in consecutive games. This afternoon, I am as thrilled as a squirrel chasing another squirrel, as a kookaburra laughing clouds out of the sky, as a sloth taking a nap. Tonight, I am as thrilled as a trembling of goldfish swimming together, as my neighbor PJ rolling then smoking a perfect joint on his back porch, as his short-haired cat Fuzz Aldrin sniffs the pungent air as the stars dilate. And tonight, once more, I praise the same world for spinning under you and me. Thank you so very much. You guys rock.
Holy cow, what a perfect one to end on. Joey, gosh, if y'all want to unmute, just take a moment because I can see you clapping. We can also hear it. Oh,
Oh my goodness.
Joey.
Oh.
Praise the world for spinning under me.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
And the quotes are going to be such fun for you to look over, Joey, the things that people put in the chat section. But there was a way that you said it, Karen, that I'm trying to go back to. What you were noticing in these poems. It was so beautiful what you said. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
I had a
Yeah.
moment. I don't
Oh,
know.
you said,
What-
I love these poems so much. And the delivery, what a treat. And then wow, all caps. Yeah, fabulous. And you almost made her fall out of her seat with the Captain Kirk line.
Yeah, you almost lost me on that one.
Ditto.
Oh, that was so much fun. And I just realized I did such a poor job of introducing you because I didn't read your bio, but I did want to say this is your 3rd book that you have out. And you also have nonfiction coming out soon. Could you talk a little bit about that? And also, if people wanted to have an autographed copy of Breakaway, can they reach out to you to get it?
Oh, sure. Totally. That's extremely generous. Sure. But yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, this is my 6th book of poetry. I'm really amped about that. And which is great. Breakaway is current collection. I have my my memoir, is called Extinction Wednesday. And it's a memoir about, I guess, well, obviously I wrote it, so it's about me, but hello, Captain Obvious. Yes, I'm a professor. No, it's just the essays proceed from, I guess, popular culture and why they mean so much to me. Because my family, yeah, there is a lot, some of which I hope I described here. But the one thing, there were 2 things that everybody seemed to agree on. Everyone loved baseball, so we watched a whole lot of baseball and movies. And those were the 2 things that we could basically agree on without like ripping each other's throat out or trying to. And so Extinction Wednesday, it's this idea of doing things differently because, right, the pandemic, speaking of the pandemic, I think it's shown many people that we can't go back to the old ways, right?
Mhm.
And it's so interesting to me that the pandemic comes around in, the digital age. I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up in the analog age. I'm a latchkey kid. So, so Extinction Wednesday, I'm middle-aged, I'm in the middle of my life. And so the way I do things now has changed, and I hope for the better. So I guess you could say that Extinction Wednesday is a hope that I will, do better by me, by the people I love, by the people I care about. And it's a really interesting extension of Breakaway. Breakaway started a conversation that I had no idea was going to happen, and Extinction Wednesday is hopefully adding something to that. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. And I have to tell you, I really want you to come back when Extinction Wednesday is out, because I would love to celebrate and hear some of that. But there's a lot of really amazing conversations or topics that your poems touch on. And you do such a lovely job of having vivid descriptions, but also this internal self-awareness and a sense of humor that is, admirable, that you balance all of that. And is that something you came back and put in as you edited it, or is that just kind of how you write? I'm just curious about your process.
Maybe. It's a short answer. The longer answer is this. I don't know. Anne Lamott has an essay called Shitty First Drafts. Some of you may know it. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I'm a really shitty first drafter.
Yay, same.
I allow myself to just go wherever it goes, if, like Anne Lamott. If I want to say, hey, Mr. Poopy Pants, I'll do that. And I'll just go. So I don't know, like if I'm writing poetry, it usually begins with something I see. I usually see an image and it kind of arrests me. And I ask myself, why is it doing that? Is it because it's a strange image? Is it because it reminds me of something? What's going on with there? Why is it sticking with me? So I'll begin there, and then, sometimes it'll, I'll crack myself up. I'll amuse myself, and I'll say, oh, okay, made me laugh. Maybe I'll make someone else laugh. Well, we can change it. We cannot. So it really depends on what I'm writing. But when I'm writing prose, I tend to be more about the story, right? I tend to just kind of, this is what happened. It's very straightforward. This is what happened. This is when it happened. Off we go. And then I'll stop. Then maybe I'll come back to it and I'll say, oh, wait a minute. I remember Uncle Mike saying this. I remember my sister saying this. I remember feeling like this. So I kind of use just the event as a scaffolding. And then when it comes to prose, I kind of fill it in. Whereas with poetry, it's strange, but it happens all at once. It's like a geyser. But the first thing that sets it off is the image for me.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. It was really fabulous to hear kind of how it starts with you and how you follow it. I looked through the chat section to see if there were any questions, and I didn't see any. So you're welcome to just unmute and ask. We're pretty relaxed here. Does anybody have any questions? Regina, oh, good. We got you away from the, we're sorry that the board meeting coincided. We're glad you're here.
I'm glad I made it because this is just wonderful. This is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Any
much.
comments? You don't have to ask a question. You could just say which poem. Yeah.
Having the action figures in the background, is that Godzilla?
That's my question.
It's just perfect. It's perfect.
What's your question about the figures?
Is it the Marvel
They were-
Universe?
Yeah, it's my version of that, I guess. I kind of like to joke around and say that's my practice audience. It makes me feel stronger, gives me something to aspire to, I guess. No, I love comics. And for me, when I first started, I was really lucky, right? My family, I'm the first in my family to graduate high school, much less go to college. And the reason why I say that, because my parents tried really hard to, do everything they could for me. And so I can't remember not reading. But I was a sickly kid. I was sick a lot. I don't know what my deal was, but I just, if there was something going around, I got it. If I was a kid when COVID was out, I might not be alive. I mean, that's how sickly I was. It was just a thing. But my dad would always bring home when I was sick, like a stack of comics. And that was his way of trying to encourage my reading habit, because I read anything I get my hands on back when encyclopedias were a thing. Oh man, that was that was my childhood Google, and I would just read, and my dad saw that I loved looking at artists, Marc Chagall, his art, and I didn't know why at the time. Like, I couldn't articulate. I was just like, ooh, wow, it's a human being that looks like a dove that has like a rainbow of colors, and there's a guy playing a violin. What's happening here? There's just so much to see. And so comic books appealed to me for the same reason, right? The colors, the characters, but I would read them too. And and my dad would say, read this to me out loud. And I didn't know what he was doing. I was just like, sure, cool. Yeah, here we go. And I would read. And so, yeah, so my action figures have been, they're kind of like my guardian angels in a weird way. I hate to say that, but it's true. It's true. I enjoy them, and I'm really lucky. I have a spouse who supports that habit. Thank you. So Yeah, comic books, comic book characters. I love the stories they're trying to tell. I love how they're trying to make normal people do extraordinary things. And yeah,
Oh, good insight, good question, good conversation. That's awesome. I love how the one, like the dinosaur, has the best shadow behind him. It's so good,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
excellent.
Fin Fang Foom. And the problem with Fin Fang Foom, I gotta tell you,
Oh.
he's kind of a Frankenstein figure. He's supposed to have different arms, but but I had some parts that didn't quite fit my others. So I kind of put them together.
Oh,
He's like the ultimate process bone. So yeah, Fin Fang Foom he's kind of like Frankenstein Fang Foom more, but yeah, I love him. I love him.
He's working it. It's awesome. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Oh, so Regina, you're already thinking of the next meeting with him coming back. That's
yeah.
awesome.
I'm excited. And it's just ironic because things I've been like everything, it's just amazing. The universe, the alignment of things I've been exposed to recently has just kind of affirmed some things and even generated more thought about, this using this use of comic books and stories and folk tales and whatnot. It's really like showing up in my own writing. And did you go to Comic-Con this year? Did you go to your comic? Did you
I
go?
went, yeah, I went to my local Comic-Con. I got to meet Jim Starlin, the guy
Right.
who was at the Captain Marvel. I was like, wow. Yeah, did you go?
I did go to Comic-Con in Greenville.
Yes.
Yes. It was very good. I have these, never mind. I'm getting ready to be a nerd. I wish my husband was up here. He would be undone. But yes, I have 3 boys, so that's big in my house. And they're not boys though, they're adults now.
They're always your boys, though. They're always,
They're my
that's
babies. Yeah.
I feel you there.
And I think men
That's awesome.
that are into comics make good dads.
Hmm.
I love what you said about the synchronicity, though, and how sometimes there'll be themes that come up.
Yeah.
And I think I enjoy when, a writer has a lot of different topics that kind of, circle around different ideas. And that's part of the reason why I enjoyed this reading so much. Because when you go back over the chat section, you'll see like we're all pulling different things out. Like it resonated. Sometimes there'll be like a line that all of us put down. Yes. But then there's a lot of very personal. I think if we went back, people would have personal reasons why that line resonated with them. So it's interesting. For me, looking back over what people wrote, a lot of very different phrases. Yeah, can I be in charge? I did like that one too. My mind is an ocean. Must you always trust your gut? There's almost a found poem going on in the chat section.
Right.
Oh, I just realized, Joey, I probably need to put your email address in the chat section so that people have a way to reach out to you. Is that
Please.
okay?
Sure. No, I like talking. This is great. Of course.
Is there a link to the book?
Awesome.
Is there a link?
We can do yep, let's do a link to the book. Karen, can you grab that?
I will work on it. If Laura's not already, she usually beats me to that. Did you beat me
Laura,
to
you
it, Laura? No? Okay.
I can put
All right.
I can put my email in the chat if you'd like.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
Yeah,
And
let's
then
do
we
that.
can also do,
Yeah.
and we can also do a link.
Sure.
Regina, did you want to read a poem tonight?
Yes.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Joey. So there's a
Did you get it, Laura? Laura got it.
She did. She did. She's on it.
You know me.
She's quick.
I'm just
Broadstone books,
spacing out.
Broadstone does some of my favorite poets, so not at all surprised. So you can go directly there, or you can reach out to Joey if you'd like a signed copy. So Joey, if you looked at the email, it's right there in the chat section. Awesome. So if we don't have any more questions, we can just take a moment to say thank you, Joey. That was amazing. It was enjoyable. It was fun. It felt like such an easy community to be in your company. Thank you.
Well, again,
Yay.
thank you again for having me, and thank you so much for being here. I mean, it's the end of the week. You could be doing a lot of things, and you hung out with us. I mean, much obliged. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's such a great group, and you're in for a treat now as we head into open mic because yeah, a lot of fun. So just to go over who I have in case I missed somebody, Christy, Susanna, Laura, Chuck, Karen, Shamala, and Regina. And if you have changed your mind and you want to read, just send me a message. I'll try to pay attention to the chat section. Woo. Christy, I'm coming to you.
Okay.
And we've got you.
So the poem I'm going to read tonight is in my chapbook titled Finding Her through Finishing Line Press. And this is titled For the Maladjusted Gardener Who Would Be Culled by Her Own Brown Thumb. Sitting at the start of a sandy path, flanked by lush greenery, I hear your fingers digging as I listen to you pray to a God you've said you don't believe in, for a sinkhole deep enough to stop a heart at its core. My screams reverberate wet with marrow. I am still here as ripe red roses bloom out of my chest, climb skyward arms, and anchor themselves to extended legs. My being is now a pergola built to bear the brunt of you. I watch the earth open up and swallow you whole. Thank you.
Christy, I so remember. It's so nice to hear you read it though. Wow. It just
Thanks.
deepened the experience for me.
I'll put the
Susanna,
link in the
coming to
chat.
you. Thank you. Please do. Anybody having a book out or you're reading from a book, please put your link in the chat section so people can support us writers, our community. I've got you, Susanna.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be a pressmate with Joey at Broadstone Books. And I think it's the second time we've been pressmates at two different presses, one way back years ago. But I'm always interested in poetry and conversation. And so this is actually a poem in my book about a similar topic to Joey's. And I'm talking about his poem about Italian lessons. And I also have a poem called mine is called Italian Lessons. The weekly 60 minutes when my tutor and I practice conversational Italian, I've named my stupid hour because it's when I feel most inept, or maybe this is the constant and real me, incapace, not capable, the one that stumbles over rolled R's and forgets which syllable is accented, as if I were mired in a field of kudzu, the malicious vine grabbing at my feet. More than a decade, and I'm still complaining that Italian breaks its own rules. I confuse one noun with another, zingara instead of zanzara. I try to blame a mosquito, and my Italian tutor wonders if I'm racist for blaming a Romany. Listen to me talk about the book I've read. The film, the art show, as if I were cultivated, as if I were in Italian finishing school. I am a studentessa in a twilight zone of mispronunciation. By the time Italians stop feeling sorry for me the way I mangle the language, by the time they stop switching to English to be polite, I will be gone. I will be gopha, clumsy, still mixing up noun genders because let's face it, nouns don't wear lipstick, which would be a bit of a clue. Will my Italian tutor, who would prefer to be an olive farmer in Umbria, still teach me in heaven? He is an atheist and would be upset to find himself there. Grazie mille, I say after every lesson. Grazie mille. I gave this poem to my Italian tutor, and he said he felt so badly that I felt that way about my Italian lessons. And I said, no, don't feel that way. It's a poem. It's not real. And you've in fact performed instructional miracles, which I think is probably true. Thank you.
love that, Susanna. That is fabulous. I kind of now want y'all to work on a anthology of, Italian poets, just poems that, come back to that theme, that cultural history. Oh, a twilight zone of mispronunciation. Yeah. Oh, you guys are great. Laura, I'm coming to you.
That was a hard act to follow. Susanna, two things. First of all, the extent of my Italian is Il Dolfino mangia la mela, which is really useful from Duolingo as the dolphin eats the apple. I have no idea why they were teaching us that. And you have some bitching cool glasses. So this poem, it's old, it's short, and a little gloomy after all that cheerful hilarity, but this is yes to the dark, uneven body of each tree. Yes to the dark, uneven body of each tree. Winter light picks out gray bark against bright snow. Gnarled and leafless limbs implore the sky, a sky that lowers to touch the tips of ancient fingers with the cold yes of rain and snow. Ice coats each supplicant in the shining cloak of winter as they await the coming thaw. Thank you.
Oh, Laura, I love everything about that poem, and that title is Pure Fire, even as you're freezing us with the poem. I kind of want that weather right now. Chuck, I'm coming to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the coming
Um,
thaw.
I'm happy to be here, and Joey, thanks for your reading. That was such fun. I'd like to read part of a poem. It's from a volume called Percussive, which is graced by a graceful and generous blurb on the back. This collection doesn't have a title poem, but if it did, this might be it. It's a 4-part poem. I'm only going to read the first part and just basically a little bit of the second part. The poem is called San Antonio. 1. Me, I'm a black-haired, bug-eyed, sentimental Caruso wearing corduroy jacket and jeans. That they expect me at the airport is reassuring. Today must be the right day. Me, in the manner of the hermit poet, I shall name myself Sandy Beach, a prominent feature of a shoreside environment where I am naturally found. You know it's poetry when you read too fast. You can't help yourself. The message, the words, taps on the drumhead, percussive, surprise in the line breaks, passing, blurred, a view from a train. You know it's not poetry most of the time, especially in school, in class, math class, especially calculus, even when the professor is a Sean Thomas Doherty of calculus, unless it is. 2. You can dress us up, but we are all here naked. Every single thing we say or draw overdetermined. Our loved ones most subject to our best efforts. What is love? Thank you.
Oh, Chuck, that was fabulous. I hope you'll come visit us again. You can dress us up, but we are all here naked. Yep, that's fabulous. Oh, good stuff. Karen, I'm coming to you.
Well, I so wish I had a totally joyful poem, and in a strange way, this kind of is. It's written in response to a pretty heavy poem by Mike James, but that kind of has a twist to it because I think we just, you just deal with the weird of your family. You just deal with it. So this is thinking about my father after reading Mike James' poem, The Belt. You were an artist, never mill-tired, never drunk, just MIA every Saturday, seeing a client about a job. She was never a client. After you lost the studio, you would only ever mumble, indecipherably, a client's name only after we had begged on and on for a name. You would leave each weekday morning, be home for dinner each weekday evening, never answering in all those years where exactly you had been. No belt was ever unleashed from your belt loops in order to punish our misbehavings, but spankings were threatened. And when threats weren't enough, you'd take whichever one of us had horribly misbehaved into a closed-door bedroom for a spanking. Years later, when I was debating a punishment for my young son, you confessed to the lie of your spankings of my sister and me, how you'd laid the back of your one hand on the naked bottom of which of us had most horribly misbehaved, and you'd clapped your hands together to make the sound of a spanking, and you'd paused for effect or regret before repeating the process until we'd cried a convincing enough amount of I'm sorry's for you to feel that we wouldn't repeat whatever wrongs we had done. This was a truth that you spoke. There were so many truths you never spoke. You repeated many wrongs. She was never a client, but she was likely quite a job for you to handle secretly.
Oh, Karen,
Those
fire.
families, weird family
Yeah.
stuff, man.
Girl, thank you for reading that. Thank you for writing it.
It's a thing.
Yep, so many. Read the comments. We're on fire in the chat section, my friend. Shamala, I'm coming to you.
I'll do what Joey did and read a part of a poem because it's kind of long. It's a prompt from Susie Q. Smith's class, and the prompt was something like, "What is your superpower? And what would you do with your superpower?" So, I would tidy the world, pick the sulfur dioxide out of the clouds, the carbon dioxide out of the ocean, but only the excess. I would rake every leaf off every lawn, but leave a careful edge on each garden tidily. Enough for the bees and bugs and all the good creatures, not enough for ticks. Or perhaps that would be wrong? I don't know. Is tidying always good? Female ants tidied so well, they couldn't live with male ants anymore. And suburbia displaces wilderness, starts fires and causes drought and flood. Can we tidy our way to health of the planet, of ourselves, our souls? Is it maybe, just possibly perhaps good sometimes to laugh so much one leans on a beer or wine sticky surface and rejoices in the spill? Embraces it's not necessary to tidy. Would the planet be better if we didn't tidy? Better even if we didn't exist? How to tidy without assuming first we know what's best? And I truly like outsourcing knowing what's best to God. It's way above my pay grade. And if I take away both hubris and breastbeating, I'm left with this. Untidy out in nature is beautiful, is perfect. But I want a different perfect for my nest. And then I get lost because I haven't figured out what to do with this yet. Thanks.
Shamala, thank you so much. Wow. I love how that poem talks with itself and comes to those places. Yeah, would it be better even if we didn't exist? Outsourcing, knowing what's best to God. Make sure you read the comments, Shamala. Oh, I love this open mic. Regina, I'm coming to you. We just have the most fun, and it's been, think of all the people we've gotten to celebrate with, right?
Yes. So, along, I guess maybe some of the themes we've heard tonight, and then on last week, I read a poem about Anansi. So I'm kind of stuck in fairy tale land a little bit. And these I'm going to do two short poems. One of them is entitled "Washed All Over," and it references Mami Wata, who is the woman, the goddess of West Africa, who is a water god. And so that one, and also Beat Drops. And Beat Drops references a story that I knew about growing up. My mother read it to me. I've done some things with it before. The original story is called "The People Could Fly." And so these poems reflect that. Washed all over. Mami Wata stirred the seas and pulled up from the murky bottoms truth and stolen memory. In anger, my auntie spawned a tsunami with a single flip of her mighty tail. And as it rolled up and towards the shore, the wave reminded the air to scorch and thin the space between those, the unrepentant and the highest God, that the infidels might finally hear and bow down to the truth that could wash over them, that could save them at last. Beat drops. From war-darkened skies, winged, bronze-blackened women dive into and in between the fray. Their ancient weapons of war forged in boat bottoms, from torn skin, fingernails, metal shavings of shackles, formed invisible, dedicated on high spiritual altars, polished and anointed with blood and tears, and inserted as an impenetrable sword, replacing spine. Bone essence from the waters, gild ribs as gold, that wings might pull in, out. In those times as in these wings invisible to purposed predators, emerge large, adorned, to lift up the guardians. War sounds surround death camps, heralding their entrance like ancient drum beats dropping, heavy, whooshing, and flapping in an urgent new day. Thank you.
Ooh, Rena, that is powerful. I am loving that these are calling to you, and I love your responses to them. Yeah, fabulous.
Thank you.
Well, once again, it has been such a delight to be in your good company. And Joey, it was just such an honor. I'm serious, but I want, when it's okay to schedule for the spring, when your memoir comes out, that, Extinction Wednesday, we would love to celebrate with you. Don't
You
forget,
got
if
it.
you want a signed copy, reach out to Joey.
Thanks
Or
so
by
much.
direct.
This was great. Nice to
Yeah.
meet everybody and to see everybody. This was so cool. Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Be well, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for making
Malika.
that Thursday.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Fabulousness. Bye.
Yes, right.